Taking the segue from this discussion, our next session will focus more on remote return or realign, identifying the next work model. Our speakers include Rohit Sachdeva, Executive Director, Kyndryl, India. A very brief introduction. Rohit is a business leader with 30 years of industry experience in the IT industry. Currently Executive Director, Kyndryl, India, Rohit comes with a compelling blend of services, business leadership experience, client advocacy, P&L management, delivery excellence, and enterprise operations. Joining him on the panel is Louie, Head of Future of Work and Talent Strategy, Thomson Reuters. Chris is a problem solver and a strategist with 20 plus years of experience in technology and digital media. Strong cross-functional experience, including talent management and recruiting, strategy, product and talent marketing, analytics, and of course, finance. And chairing the session is Mrinal Rai, Principal Analyst, ISG. Mrinal has experience covering key trends in IT services industry and thought leadership. He's an expert in digital technologies, transformation, service provider capabilities, and IT services market. It's a pleasure to have you all join us this afternoon. Over to you, Mrinal.
Hi. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on from which part of the world you're joining us today from. My name is Mrinal Rai. I'm Principal Analyst and Senior Research Manager at Information Services Group, also known as ISG. Today, I'm going to talk to you about my favorite topic, the future of work. Now, I think we all agree that the last 2 years had been phenomenally transformative for enterprises across the globe for managing the work and the way work is done. Enterprises whom we speak to every day, they talk about the challenges that they faced when they had to transform their workplace and transition their workforce to a remote setup because of a pandemic. And there were challenges to it, but there were also opportunities. We have seen that enterprises had to deal with situations where employees were working remotely. They had to manage the technology that is used to enable them, but at the same time, they also had to ensure that the quality of work doesn't get disrupted. At the same time, they also had to take care that employees don't feel and don't suffer because of the situations like digital burnout or what we used to call Zoom gloom. Thankfully, we have two distinguished gentlemen with us to discuss around these trends and topics. Chris from Thomson and Reuters and Rohit from Kyndryl, India. Welcome, gentlemen. So to begin the discussion today about the way the work is changing and the future of work and the new ways of working, I would start with the challenges and the opportunities with hybrid working. Now, when we look at customer experience or CX, as we know, as in well-known industry term, enterprises were really targeting strategies and opportunities to enhance their customer experience. What the pandemic has taught us to equally look at the employee experience part. Now, in our discussion with enterprise clients, we are seeing a lot of interest in associating that CX part with the new EX part. Now, since we have Chris with us today, so Chris, I would like to start with you. What are you seeing in your enterprise and at Thomson and Reuters, and what are your advice to your industry peers to associate CX part and EX part, and any related topic that you want to discuss regarding this development? Over to you, Chris. Maybe Rohit, you can jump in later.
Awesome. Mrinal, thank you so much for the question. It's a great question for us at Thomson Reuters as well, because customer NPS and employee NPS are actually two of our core metrics that our leadership focuses on. At Thomson Reuters, we think of ourselves as a very customer-centric company. We actually say that our purpose is to inform the way forward, and empowering and advising clients is, of course, central to that. If you think about what we're trying to do with our clients want and need the best data and solutions, and they need the best talent to be able to deliver that, right? So we think that investing in our talent, developing them, attracting, engaging, and developing them is part and parcel with how we do business. We have also been on a company transformation for the last several years, right, to transform into what we call a content-driven technology company, right? And so in order to be able to do that, we've also had to attract from a different talent pool that happens to be kind of the most competitive talent pool that you can find, right? Technologists, software engineers, product managers and marketers, right? And so again, as we try to deliver for our clients in that way, we also need to have talent that we're tapping into that are going to be able to provide that and also provide that at scale, right? So this is why I say we see CX and EX as really being synergistic, right? Even pre-pandemic, we had already done, taken steps to globalize as a company, including the growth of our shared service centers in Bangalore and Hyderabad, Manila, and Mexico City, right? So we had already kind of said, okay, look, we need to deliver for clients in a really good way, right? But how do we do that and maintain that touch while still tapping into these untapped talent pools and scaling, right? And I would say that the pandemic, of course, has provided challenges that I know we'll get into in this call, but the flexibility and the support for remote work that has come out of that has also been really, really helpful for us to even more so tap talent pools that we had not tapped previously, kind of spread the work around in ways that, again, put the clients first, but also can allow us to harness the power of our talent, give more internal opportunities to people irrespective of where they had been located. And so we see this as, coming out of the other end of this, a big win in terms of us transforming the client value proposition and the employee value proposition.
Thank you, Chris. Couldn't agree more. Rohit, would you like to add anything?
So look, I think very, very, very nicely put by Chris, how interconnected the client experience and the employee experience is, and also always was. Probably there is a better realization of that the pandemic has forced us to learn. We as organizations have always been investing very heavily on client experience, because that's where we get our business from. I mean, an enhanced client experience gives us more business. And almost all organizations have been investing very heavily on technology, etc., on how the client experience can be enriched and how we create differentiators. Now, the larger realization here is that, okay, what do we invest and how do we invest in the employee experience, right? The technology investment in the employee experience. And there are a variety of some examples that Chris talked about with respect to talent. And there are more, which is a lot of organizations like Kyndryl, we are leveraging technology to drive this innovation through predictability and artificial intelligence build based on numerous data elements that we already have. I think the important point here is that it is a known fact that an enriched employee experience and engagement drives the positivity of around building the new client experience, and that drives the business growth for the organizations like Kyndryl and many others. So I think net of it, investment in technology on the employee experience, which was not as much as it is now, building those differentiators, bringing in the predictability and the intelligence through the data that we already have, really helps us build that differentiator for an employees to stay engaged, motivated, and as well relevant to what they're supposed to deliver to our clients. And that's what really creates the impact, that's needed for us to grow in this market.
Thank you, Rohit. And I think you put it nicely when you talk about the predictive analytics or the usage of new technologies that can help enable and understand us and predict the user behavior. And to your point, Chris, like you mentioned about tapping a new talent pool to make sure that the changing customer experience are being met. I agree to both of you. Now, however, when we talk about the changing customer experience, we also have to look at how employees are working through different modes, hybrid or in office. Now, we have seen the remote working. Of course, it provides a lot of flexibility for the end users, but at the end of the day, it is also causing some of the digital fatigue and what we are calling a digital isolation for employees. If you look at only in-office working or people returning to office, of course, it builds relationship, it builds an association with the organization, but it reduces the level of flexibility as many would want to see it. Now, I would like to start with you, Rohit, first, and maybe Chris, you can pitch in later, because Kyndryl being a large organization serving a lot of customers across the globe and a lot of dependency on where the how the employees work in. So since how did it work out during the pandemic, and how do you foresee in the coming years the challenges and the opportunities with different modes of working, and how is Kyndryl looking at it, and any advice that both of you gentlemen had for the organizations, your peers in the enterprise, different enterprises? Please throw some light on that. Rohit.
See, look, again, this is an awesome question that you've asked, which is very relevant for us as well as our peers in the industry, right? And we've experienced this in the last 2 years more than ever before. I think there are two parts of this. One is to digitally enable our workforce and continue to digitally enable our workforce. Learn and unlearn. And I think I always use this phrase because I believe this is very, very critical and important for the success. Let me touch the first one first, which is the digitally enabled workforce. I mean, if you ask me as an organization, Kyndryl, I guess large part of our population, almost everyone was already digitally enabled when we actually had hit the pandemic. And the benefit that we got with that was that we took almost no time to get our business model to shift into a 100% remote model when we were forced to get there. So I think digitally enabling our workforce is very, very critical. Now, how do we do that? One, of course, is the technology side of it, which is a lot of solutions that are available today and were available before that enables an employee to stay connected almost at all times, irrespective of what device we use. And we have all experienced that, right? So investment in technology to continue to digitally enable our workforce, that's very, very important. And second part is how do we get the best out of our team when they are not in office? And that's another important aspect, I believe, that we as organizations are investing in. Part of it is technology driven, right? Which is the transformation of policies and processes around how do we deal with our employees, how do we help them take decisions which or have conversations which were earlier more in-person, face-to-face, and now digitally enabled. And the second part of what I said is so the people process, the policy process, enablement of our workforce, which is all technology driven, is the core, frankly, is the core of what our future is going to be. More importantly, I think a continuous evolution of what we do and learning from what happens around us is again very, very important for us to stay engaged as well as keep our teams motivated. So a lot of it that we do in terms of unlearning some of the practices that we were following in the past and learning new things, not only for us as leadership, but also opening that up for our employees is, I believe, the most important aspects of being successful in this new world.
Sure. Thanks, Rohit. Chris, do you want to add anything here?
I think that answer was well said. The only part that I think is I will underscore in Rohit was playing back is, if you think about the stages that we've all been through over the last few years, right? We had to go into that pandemic, everything shut down mode, right? And, in some ways that you could argue that was the hardest thing, right? Because it was the most disruptive. We had to do it quickly. You could also argue, though, looking back at it and looking at where we are now, hey, yeah, it was hard, but it was also simple in the sense that the degrees of freedom were lower, right? It was like everybody was going to be 100% virtual. If you were like, it sounds like both Kyndryl and Thomson Reuters were, either fortunate enough and or smart enough to digitally enable beforehand, you were in a relatively better place. Otherwise, you were in scramble mode, right? But regardless, everybody knew what the work experience was going to be. Very scheduled, on calendars, everybody from home, right? You're opening up your Zoom, your laptop and your Zoom app, and you're getting on with each other. You can fast forward to now, it's in a little bit of a harder place, right? Because you have this mix going of the digital and the physical and, the human things all coming in. We're all in different places at different times. Some are relatively more in office, less in office, both within your company as well as across companies. And so we need to figure out what the rules are and how we're going to operate together. And again, I will just underscore what Rohit said. It has to be about learning and unlearning and being willing to both, understand where others are coming from, have a little bit of trust in that regard, and some courage to experiment and the discipline to learn from that experimentation to get to, okay, here's what we learned, worked, didn't work. Here's what we think is a better solution for us as a, industry, for us as a company, and for the individuals on our team. Easier said than done, but I think kind of that's the mode that we are all in.
You completely agree. Learning is a very important point, maybe for your peers also to take forward. Now, shifting gears a little bit, in our discussion with enterprise clients, we are seeing a lot of focus on the environmental, social governance, the ESG initiatives, more focus on in sustainability and what enterprises are giving back to the environment and the society and overall. They're also focused on inclusivity and having the workplace which is democratic for everyone. So these topics are important, but I would maybe again start with you, Chris, and maybe Rohit, you can jump in later about what are the reasons that you think that these things are becoming increasingly important in current times, and what are the things that enterprises should do to make sure that they are ahead in these discussions and are complying to these requirements?
Yeah. I mentioned earlier kind of the way that we look at and think about our purpose at Thomson Reuters, right? Informing the way forward. The more complete part of that statement is inform the way forward on truth, justice, and transparency. And so we see that as core to our business, right? And I think it's important because it helps people understand where we're coming from in terms of our clients, right? It kind of helps them understand and then maybe inspires them around the greater goal. It helps with our employees as well, right? That whole thing on CX and EX, right? It helps our employees as well understand what are they working toward and what are they contributing to, and kind of inspires them to come here and inspires them to be engaged. I think those are kind of the key reasons why it's so important to us. Of course, we want to do good in the world, right, and leave a kind of a good legacy of impacting the world positively, right? But we're also of the belief that needs to jibe with business as well, right? And if you do it the right way, if you look at it the right way, like you can see it as in line with your core business, right? As well as the potential creation of new businesses in a way that's going to be lasting and allow you to, attract and engage both, the partners and stakeholders in the greater world that, are your clients, that contribute to your business lines, and to your employees as well, that, you need to be there to actually obviously deliver against, kind of what you're committing to do. Right. And so kind of that's the reasons for, I think, why is it potentially more important now than ever? Well, you could argue that if you look at the last few years, it's made all of us, right, as human beings, think about what's really important, right? And, you see all this, however you want to call it, great resignation, great reshuffle going on around the world. A lot of that, I believe, is people just reconsidering, what is the mark that they want to make, and, going to ESG is a pretty fundamental, way that I think lens that people look through in terms of, what value am I really delivering from the thing that I'm spending most of my time on, which is my day job.
Sure. Great point. Rohit?
I'll just put two small pointers here. I think you talked about the social governance, right? I would put in developing the ecosystem around us. I think we all are responsible to contribute not only in what we do, but to make the environment, the ecosystem, more energetic and more attractive for all of us to deliver the value, right? That we are here in business for. And I think And that's where this whole piece comes together of building and giving back to the environment, to the ecosystem, and making the ecosystem and environment attractive, vibrant, that delivers the best outcome. And I think that's where the core lies. For us at Kyndryl, I think we believe that inclusion and diversity are two big drivers of building this collaboration, as well as accelerating the innovation that we drive for us internally, as well as for our clients.
Absolutely. I agree with Chris when you say associate great resignation with people finding a purpose. And like you said, Rohit, about inclusivity, a very important topic. Now, no discussion today can end up without talking about metaverse or Web 3.0, the key buzzword of the enterprises today. So wanted to touch base with you guys on how you are seeing because we believe that it opens up a lot of possibilities from technology side and can be implemented in the future of work and how we see the work evolving in collaboration, in training, for example. But is it something that you, Chris, and you, Rohit, are seeing within your companies, and what you would like to recommend to your peers regarding usage and how they look at these new developing technologies? Any one of you can start.
See, I can give this a trigger, Chris. Right? I think it's always about do more with less, right? I think it's all about efficiency. It's all about bringing the experience that creates the differentiation. And this new technologies, be it Web 3.0, be it metaverse. We have a lot of talks today about the 5G and how things are going to get closer. I think it's all about the differentiation it creates. It's all about the innovation and easiness it brings to deliver what we want to deliver and to achieve the outcome that we want to achieve. Now, take for example, you talked about trainings. Today we don't need employees to pre-schedule being at a place. I mean, I still remember in my old days, we used to travel miles to get ourselves trained on something very basic like leadership development, right? We really don't need to do a lot of that. So what we can achieve through these technology interventions with least effort and most outcome. So get more for less is what I would put it. The biggest change drivers that these technology innovations have brought for all of us. And then it is continuously evolving, right? You don't need years to make a content. Of course, there's a lot that goes with the legacy and the information and the knowledge and the experience that goes into creating some of these assets. But having said that, with technology, it is continuously evolving. I mean, you can actually make the newer versions almost any time, right? So it brings in a lot of speed. It drives innovation. And most importantly, as I said, do more with less, right? So that's how I would put it. To you, Chris.
Yeah, if I could add on 2 points. One is a build on top of what Rohit just said. Clayton Christensen has this talk about jobs to be done, right? And I think that is a really critical way to think about this, right? Because we get so into the technology of it all, right? And kind of the nuances and the specifics of Web 3.0 or metaverse. But you lose sight of, hey, what is that really meant to do? And to Rohit's point, right? It can drive efficiency, it can drive innovation, it can allow us to do things that we haven't done before. What is the use case for that? Why is it really, really needed? I think it's something that we really need to think about and put first, and then put the technology second, because the technology is really the enabler to allow us to do those things. The other thing that I will highlight is, kind of this phrase of technology is overestimated in the near term and underestimated in the long term. I think that's been true of a lot of different things. I think it's true of these particular technologies as well, right? I mean, I get very excited when I see like, and I'm going to quote this book is like, almost 20 years old now, right? But the Ready Player One future, right? Where, the conversation that we can all have with our VR tech on is the exact same as if we were sitting in the same room as well. It's an exciting future. We're not there yet, right? There's going to be, I believe that you can get there. There's going to be a tipping point at some point, but we're not there right now. Having said that, we need to be experimenting in these ways. We are experimenting right now, literally with the VR tech for some of our dispersed teams to see if that adds a dimension to their leadership team meetings, right, or to their offsites, is one particular use case. But we're not there yet. Having said that, I think the future, that long term, can be even more exciting than what we're dreaming up right now. And so we need to keep investing in these ways. Some of it's going to pan out, some of it won't. But you need to have the belief that ultimately it'll be worthwhile in some way.
Sure. Thank you so much, Chris and Rohit.
Yeah.
Rohit, you want to add anything?
Can I add a point here, Mrinal?
Yep.
Okay. I think picking up on what Chris just mentioned, important point is choose carefully, right? One size doesn't fit all.
Mhm.
Now, what that means is, while all of these technologies are great enablers, but we need to be very careful of what is the relevance and what is the outcome that we want to generate out of usage of this technology, right? And that's why I said carefully choose where you want to deploy and what is the outcome that one wants to deliver. Otherwise, what I've experienced with few of our clients is we actually go overboard, overinvest, and then we don't get the outcome that we intend to deliver out of the initiative. So technology, absolute asset, we must use it. It is continuously evolving, but as I said, carefully choose, be sure on what is the outcome you want to generate, and then, there's no looking back.
Sure. Thank you so much, both of you gentlemen. And I think the technology, underestimated, overestimated, that's a great point, Chris. And Rohit, more for less. I think that is, the key message for your peers and industry and leaders across the globe. I think this has been a great conversation, and I hope people who are listening to this conversation have a better understanding and some ideas and some thought points to look for when they prepare for the future of work. I thank you both, Chris and Rohit, for your time today. And this has been a great conversation. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Mrinal, and our speakers, Chris and Rohit, for that amazing discussion.